What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, Jackrabbit Joey B here, and we're back with episode 91 of the video game therapy series. Yeah, I have a whole bit about. Actually, I'm not even going to go into that. Maybe I'll save that for another time. Yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is this. So I'm reading this book. It's called An Emperor's New Mind by Roger Penrose, who's a physicist. It's like Stephen Hawking, but just another guy in the community. He has had his own opinions and whatnot. Wrote a book about the Emperor's New Mind. It's about like computation, artificial intelligence, and then like really consciousness, which I think is interesting because I've talked about that before a lot, about how I don't think consciousness is just I think LLMs are a long way away from like true consciousness, in terms of like a computer can't feel, even though it can emulate all of the there's like more that goes into it, some almost spiritual kind of God-given thing versus in any kind of religious, not a Christian God-given, but just some kind of religiously given or existent thing. And it brought up this interesting idea that I'd like to talk about a little more, is like mathematics being like invented or discovered. Like, I think there's some things we would consider a discovery, whereas other things might be more on the realm of invention. I think the difference of that, if it's not already kind of clear, I suppose, is that invention implies it's like man-made, right? We can kind of invent a new framework for something, and we've created it out of something, and it's still not really real in any. In I guess in that sense of the word, because it is kind of a man-made thing. Again, it's something that man has invented, whereas a discovery is more of something that we've stumbled upon. Like, we wouldn't say that we, invented the Himalayas. We discovered them at some point, or we might say like we invented Coca-Cola more so than we discovered it. But like we might have discovered sugarcane instead of like invented sugar. Like, we didn't invent sugar, whereas you might have invented Coca-Cola and instead discovered sugar. So think about it more like, I don't know, like there's kind of a naturalist part of that argument that I think it is worth making, at least when talking about discovery versus invention. But it was speaking about this in the context of mathematics. Like, I think there are some maybe more formalist kinds of mathematics where feels a lot more like an invention. If like somebody kind of creates this framework and then finds an interesting conclusion only because they've invented something that, I guess has allowed them to do such things. But it's not that it isn't a breakthrough in the same sense, but it's not as much of a discovery, Whereas I spoke a bit about the Mandelbrot set, which if you haven't looked at it, it's pretty interesting, at least mathematically. But that feels more discovery-esque. It's not like something fake that we kind of made up. It's just this recursive yet like somehow profoundly inunderstandable mathematical thing that happens, right? And it's not really that we like created it, but it kind of existed and we kind of found it in that sense. The same with like gravity. I would say we discovered gravity versus inventing it, because we were certainly affected by it, and there's a lot of nuance between discovery versus invention. But I just think it's interesting to think about things from that perspective, because there's certainly a lot that I think is indeed invented, others is discovered. And I think when it comes to, I guess, true breakthroughs in technology or in anything, I think they kind of have to be discoveries instead of inventions. Like, I'm not saying like Coca-Cola isn't really a breakthrough, but I guess I would say it's not. But I think things that are invented aren't necessarily breakthroughs in anything. I don't know, more on that more cosmic sense. And I think if there is going to be some kind of, some kind of development in terms of technology and artificial consciousness, it won't be an invention of like a new kind of, GPT model, right? It won't be it won't use like that kind of LLM style or any kind of mutation on that. It'll be more of like a discovery about consciousness that allows us to then invent something that would replicate that. So like, that's probably the difference, is like discovery is more of like, you're not really making anything, you're kind of just uncovering some truth. Whereas invention is you might be using a discovered truth to replicate that or to somehow extend its functionalities in some way. So, for example, if we are able to discover, I guess, some, hidden model, or not even hidden model, because a model would be more an invention than anything, but some hidden way and function in which the brain followed, the brain did stuff. I don't know. We would have discovered that and then invented some, coding model that would then replicate that, right? That's like the discovery versus the invention thing. And so my whole argument with this is that I think if there is any kind of breakthrough, it needs kind of some kind of discovery, right? And even if it is an older discovery that have like new inventions, like if we take maybe an older framework of consciousness and then invent something on top of that, I guess that's probably closer, but I still think there is probably a lot left to discover, and discovery in terms of uncovering some again, more spiritual God-given truth. There's another way of looking at this is, I guess, just the role that humans would play in the cosmic existence, right? Whereas if humans were central figures, then there doesn't really matter what the difference between invention and discovery is, versus if you have more spiritual reverence and think that humans aren't necessarily, can't bend the forces of the cosmos to their will, which again, I guess outside of Earth and, other humans, we can't bend planets to do what we want. Then I think you might err on the side of, discovery of things versus like I invented or, something in that. So I guess there's just less hubris in saying that there's a discovery versus an invention. I just think it's not that the language itself is that fascinating or is that relevant. I just think it's interesting in how different, I suppose, discoveries or inventions are framed, using that as, a place to start. So I don't know. I think there needs to be, or there may be, or not that there needs to be, but there likely will be some kind of, there'll be nuance between discovery and invention. I think is important for newer technology developments, but that's besides the point. I just wanted to bring that up. What is this shooting at me? Let's see. I guess grifting, because that's like a big popular thing. Everyone loves grifters, people that sell stuff that other people don't need. I think there's one thing that I don't know if it's an archetype or a trope that I think is certainly replicable. I think there's like, it's, you could replicate this if you wanted to, but I think I've kind of seen this happen, and I guess I don't really have great examples for this. Maybe they'll come to me as I talk about this, but one way to do this is to invent a new word for something, or a new field of study, for example, and then because you invented it, you then become like, and it can be fake, of course it's fake, then you're the figurehead since you invented it. So I guess as an example, I could have an astrology degree or something like that. I don't know, be a cosmological engineer or something like that, and then I invent astrological philosophy as like a field of study, and then I create some kind of not fake journal, again, some kind of quote unquote real journal in astrophilosophy, which again is a field that I made up, that and of course I can define it in some weirdly specific way that makes it technically, no one's covered this. I guess we haven't really called it philosophy, but I guess now that you have a word for it, doesn't mean anything. But then you're like, you can be the leading expert on astro, and then of course you can sell. I guess I'm not really sure what that person would sell. I guess if I were grifting, for sure I'd pick something that's a little more, has a little more marketability to it. Something that looks good on T-shirts or something. Like you could be a meme philosopher, and then like you invent the journal of meme philosophy, which again, some people don't take the science seriously, but I mean, even think about other sciences that aren't really sciences that we take equally seriously. Like sociology isn't really a science. Talk about psychology is not really a science. I mean, neuroscience is closer, but it's still kind of, I don't know, a lot of sciences aren't really that, harsh, especially on how you define science. Science is all very loosely defined in a lot of these quote unquote sciences. And so, and yeah, some people just don't respect the fields of sociology or psychology. It doesn't stop anyone from majoring in it or giving money to it or anything like that. So yeah, the key for reading the Grifter here is just to make up a plausible sounding field, have some credentials of some kind to back you up, whether that be, I was on Dr. Phil, or I have a PhD, whatever it is that you want to make up that is going to defend your new field in meme philosophy, and then make something that you can sell, whether that be a book, the number one selling book on astrophilosophy. It's like, or meme philosophy. Well, again, whatever field it is you want to invent, you make something and then sell it. And that is one kind of path you can take as the modern day grifter, as somebody that is looking to make a buck, because that seems to be the way that things go now. It's all about how you can make a buck. And I think that I was thinking about this in the car earlier. Like, some people think it's there's no luck involved and it's all just like a matter of skill and business acumen, which is bullshit. I think there is, if you ignore, like, to say that there's not elements of luck in people, like, anyone that has achieved a lot of this financial or social fame, it being totally not luck based is a moron. I mean, people being famous off street interviews. How is that not lucky? Like, there's no amount of like market, unless they were just prodding around waiting to give ridiculous answers. Like, you don't really know. There's a lot of luck involved. I feel like I don't have to defend that claim as much. But the other way to do it is lying. It's luck or lying as the two main pillars of achieving success. Is either, and they're kind of trade-offs. Even you can kind of be more honest and wait for luck, or again try to maximize luck and like doing the most things you can and doing whatever, or you can just lie and you don't really need luck as much, because if you're willing to lie and there's no bounds to the amount or ferocity of your lying, then luck will come, and it won't even manifest itself as luck. It'll just be you lying. Just make up business metrics that look good and then show that to investors. And it becomes this, this kind of this Ponzi scheme cycle of lying that then kind of powers success. So you were never successful at all, but again, it was the lying that kind of built it. And there's a lot of companies that have done very well doing this model. It's not that they're lying outright. Of course, the people themselves would be like, oh, well, we're just kind of expanding, or we're kind of seeing things in an alternative light. There's alternative facts, whatever the fuck that means. But, more or less they're being dishonest about what their business is or how it makes money, in the sense that there's no real money. There's no value in the company. It's worth nothing. But again, I would call it lying, but some people would call it just like framing things, or, different kinds of marketing, internal investment marketing or something, where you're just lying. It's just not, whatever. But of course, people don't really realize that until it's way too late. So I don't know. I think luck and lying are two kind of sides of that coin, because you can still do things honestly. I'm not saying it's completely dead, that honest business doesn't exist anymore. Which I think it's maybe it's harder, per se, just because there's so much lying. But there's a trade-off. You can, depending on how much of a liar you want to be, and how lucky or unlucky you are, then, you can kind of plot at least your financial and social success in that vein. Which my other kind of thought on, I guess, financial success, at least as a function of socials. I know you can be financially successful by being in the shadows, but a lot of times now you need you be able to sell stuff, and that means getting your eyes in front of people, having some kind of social influence, be that through money, advertising, or being a figurehead or whatever. That is kind of also in that same, like, yeah, I guess social success or financial success bubble. But my other thought about it is it's not a measure of who you are, obviously, like in terms of your value as a human, but it is simply society's measure of value on you. And then the distance between that true measurement and then, I guess, how true you are to that actual person is in some sense how satisfactory that I guess social approval will be, right? Whereas, like, if you're a liar and you achieve success through this liar, but that's not really, you were lying about who you are and what you're doing the whole time, then even as the creator of this and the arbor of all this stuff, it surely can't be that satisfying, because you lied to get all of it. So it doesn't matter. Some people, would, I guess, rather lie and be rich than to lie and be poor, because that's the other alternative, is that you're also a liar, but you just didn't work. Like, you were either unlucky or you just suck at it, and you you didn't get all the stuff that you wanted by lying, so you didn't. So anyway, I think there's probably some kind of graphical thing that you could draw from society valuing you with a certain amount of credit, whether that be financial or social, and then where you stand plotted away from that point of what, I guess, how satisfied or how fulfilled that success would give you, is how accurate or true to form that you are. Because being honest, really, not me being honest right now, but I'm always kind of honest. But honesty should really be the easiest thing to do. You just say exactly what's on your mind. There's no, it should be no jumps there. There's no like logical gymnastics you have to do when you're being honest. But at the same time, it's also like is kind of one of the scarier things to do, especially in where everything's more permanent than it was prior. There's this sense of permanence in all that you say, then you want to always kind of analyze what you say, whereas, so that kind of is a jump away from the true honesty. And there's a difference between being like, there's two honest ways of saying the same thing, right? You can say like, I don't know, you can say things in a more polite manner that is still honest, but it still is more diplomatic per se. But there's still even a level of translation between, I don't know, diplomatic honesty versus like true honesty. And I think perhaps I value true honesty more, just because diplomatic honesty at some point borders on lying, and then you're all about, min-maxing where the line is between diplomatic honesty and lying, which again, I would probably push it closer. I probably, I don't want to be anywhere near that line, so to speak. I don't want it to ever feel like I'm a diplomatic liar, or diplomatic truther or whatever, versus just being someone who tells the truth. And it's because it's just easier that way. I don't need to ever have to. And like, yeah, I'm sure there's people that I piss off or that are offended by my presence in whatever sense that may be, but I'm not. I guess I don't really care, because I'm not here for that long, so it's not that important that everybody like me, or that I be okay with everybody at all times. You got the other thing about this, kind of maybe ties into like my beef with like, I guess, traditional therapy or modern mental health, is that everyone needs to be okay with everything all the time. Like, there needs to be like okay with people who've wronged you, or like the world that has wronged you, or the economy that's wronged you, or it's like, you don't need to be okay with everything. Like, what makes you think that before you die, before your earthly husk is, shattered to dust, that everything needs to be okay all the time? Everyone that you've ever wronged or has wronged you things need to be justified. Everything needs to be right. Like, it's just not, I think it's a very Marvel Cinematic Universe way to look at the world, which is just not right. It's half the reason I hate fucking Marvel movies and I hate serialized drama, is that there's not a fucking hero. There's not an autistic man in a cave going to save you. You don't have to be okay with everything. It doesn't work like that. And again, it's nice if that happens to work out that way, or there's times where, justice is served, but justice won't be served. Like, you can just be a kid that was raped, and there's no amount of therapy is going to undo that, or like make it not happen. You can, like, whether you can, I guess, wait around all day to be okay with it, or talk about it as much as you want to be okay with it. But at the end of the day, it's not happening anymore. It's over. It's done. It's not a reversible thing. And same with other people, even people that are like evil pieces of shit. Like, maybe you hate some political figure for whatever reason, or you hate some influencer, which, of course, I'm sure there's many that I fucking hate. But there's no amount of me complaining or me ruminating on their whatever that is ever going to change, like what they are, what they represent. It's like, unfortunately, in, maybe like Russian history, Putin will go down, and let's assume maybe he goes down as a great leader of some kind. Now, again, whether or not your personal opinions aside, let's just suppose that's what the way the history books write him down. Now, again, whether you want to fight against that, unjust or not, but I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't live over there. I'll be dead by the time any of this even matters. And it's like, sure, it's like there's some kind of generational, like, I want to like fight for the truth of the generations, to know that such and such was an evil person. But it's like everybody is evil on some level. There's not any kind of, sure, like there's people who are more so and more worthy of your contempt, but at the end of the day, you're never going to fix it all. And it's not case for not trying. You can still fight for what you want, but you can also just pick your battles. You don't everyone has to care about everything all the time. Like there are many things that I just don't care about, and there's nothing you're going to do or say that's going to make me care about them. Again, politics, I think personally is for fucking losers, is for morons. And if you care about that a lot, I think you're wasting your time. Now, again, it's your prerogative. There's plenty of things that I do that waste my time, and I would hope that there are things that I do. You're like, wow, that guy's an idiot. He's wasting his time, and that's fine. That's kind of the beauty of the whole thing, is that everyone gets to waste their own time doing their own dumb shit. Now, I think politics is especially stupid for of course my own reasons, but it's all kind of a waste of time. We're all just kind of burning time finding dumb things to do that, before it's all over. And again, it's the things I choose to do are not things that make me sad or make me angry towards some contemptuous they, oh, damn you, Joe Biden, or whatever. Like, who cares? I don't care. Like, I'd rather waste my time. Again, I'm not saying spend I'd rather waste my time, because we're all wasting our time. I'd rather waste my time, even just cracking dumb jokes is still in my eyes more mature than complaining or holding a picket fence or peaceful protesting or anything like that. And again, it's not any shade per se against those specific things. We're all wasting our time. And as long as you can't accuse me of wasting my time more stupidly than you wasting your time, when of course I'd say the same thing about you. So it's all a waste of time. There's no don't ascribe more value to your time because you view it as more noble than me not doing that, which I think is the real moral quandary. It's like weighing the moral acts of your do-goodedness above what I do just because it's not the same. It's like, well, that's bullshit. I don't agree with that. So I don't know, I guess that's part of the reason I don't pass any judgment on people that do dumb shit. Of course, I obviously critique people for doing stuff that I think is stupid, but that doesn't, I'm very respectful of their right to knowing that they're allowed to waste their time in whatever way they want to. And it's not my position to judge on the basis of that. Beyond just again, kind of remarks that I think are funny, of course. There's kind of tinges of hypocrisy in all of this. There's not any way to say what I just said without being in some ways hypocritical. Because of course I am critiquing them, and I am doing exactly what I'm saying I'm doing with regard to protesting, but or I guess just caring about politics in general. But I think the moral weight of it is I'm not. I'm kind of addressing that we're all wasting our time here, and so are you. It's not like you're doing anything better than me because you think so. But of course, and again, if you really think that is truly the best use of your time, as if you're actually making any kind of difference, then that's on you. But my personal view is that I don't think you can make any kind of difference being poor and being a nobody. Right? You have to kind of be, a pedophile or whatever these. I don't know how you break into these dumb rich circles, but you don't want to. I don't think. However you do it, I don't think you should want to be in these circles of influence. And, I suppose look out for the things that you can look out for. I wouldn't, instead of trying to stop every person who's ever molested anybody, just keep your kids safe. Keep your cousins, keep them under door. Everyone else there's a certain amount of kind of fending for your own right thing. I can't undo every harm anyone's ever done to anyone else everywhere in the world. So it's just, I don't know. It's a little silly to think that you're able to stop these kind of cosmic catastrophes. Or I think it's silly to even think that it's more impactful to kind of put 1 penny in towards $1 trillion goal versus just I don't know, maybe really kind of checking off goals that are more local. They may be goals of less grandeur, but they're ultimately much more attainable, right? Because you don't even know if you're making progress towards this $1 trillion goal you're putting a penny towards, whereas a local goal you could put $50 towards or some kind of and this isn't literal. This is more of a figurative abstraction on things. Like the size and scope of goals that you're trying to impact should be somewhere where you have some more noticeable influence. And my issue with kind of global politics or even just national politics is that you're not influential at all. Nobody cares what you have to say, even if you are right or if you're. It doesn't matter. You're nobody. Like unless you are a gajillionaire who can actually, like unless you're Bill Gates, who cares whether it's like they could just have you killed at any point. I don't know. I'm more conspiratorial in that sense, where I don't think it is. It's not making a difference. Somebody parading around, I guess making themselves feel better more so than anything. But I don't know. We're all kind of wasting our time at the end of the day. So I just choose to do it. I choose to be obvious about what I'm doing it. I'm obviously wasting my time playing Minecraft and talking to myself, but that is it's part of the beauty of it. So anyway, move on to something else. What is love? You can cue the song now too, if I have it. No. What is love? It's very interesting. It's something that came to mind when I was thinking about it. You have to believe in something. Some people believe in love, everlasting love, whatever that might be. And I think to define that in some ways, I think it begins. It's certainly there's stratospheres of it or layers of love. It begins as excitement, lust, attraction, kind of perhaps more a physical thing, and then at a certain point, I think it really just becomes just saying yes over and over again. Just kind of commitment is really the true form of love, or I even think trust, even that comes from just kind of gross, even overcommitment on some levels, just unabashed, lifelong commitment ends up just becoming what love is. Whereas it kind of begins as just like, oh, I'd fuck you as that person, and then it kind of morphs into, I'll let this person, have a kid with them, and then I'll, trust them with my money or whatever. And whatever these people value, it's all about trust is really the ultimate form of it all. So that's kind of my very simple abstraction on what love is. But I don't know, because I think it's hard. Like people say you're like in love, whereas I think love at that point is more of a process, right? The process of beginning as lust, which is the easy part, right? It's like it's the honeymoon phase when you're like still wanting to fuck the other person and being physically attracted to them is the easy part of it. That's not even love at that point, or it's not even really something that is. I don't think you can call that love. That's just physical attraction. At that point, you love everybody that you'd fuck. It's like every porn star, you love all of them. That's not really what that is. But then I think you can't really, again, in my view of this, I think if you define love as that measure of commitment, I think it only kind of is then something that increases over a long, long period of time. You can only really truly say that you're in love after a certain amount of commitment or time, or again, just saying yes over and over again has elapsed, which again is not really even for you to be the judge of. It's more of an external party even, or some kind of omniscient, omnipotent saying, okay, what is their measure of commitment to one another? Then is that really love? But like, wanting to fuck another person is not. That's love. Always begins that way. It's not ever truly platonic in that sense. At least that's not how I'm familiar with it, at least. But it eventually becomes just, again, saying yes over and over again, a measure of commitment. But because it frustrates me that people are like, oh, it's like we're in love. It's like it's difficult at that point, especially to tell the difference between just being horny and being in love. And I think especially a lot of younger people in that certainly don't know the difference. Like, oh, we're in love. It's like, no, you're just horny. There's like, when that wears off, or when there's a lot more to it, there's more time and more things to say yes to that you don't want to, more commitment at stake, that horniness, how powerful is that? Maybe that's the whole thing, is just the amount of, I don't know, I guess it depends on how much that really dictates your behavior, which is another frustrating part for me, I think, socially, is that, like I said before, everything now is just versions of porn. Everything is porn. It's just, everything is sexualized. It's just food porn, literal porn, or, anger porn, things just make you angry. Everything is just some mutation of pornography. And that is sickening to me. And then, and so now I guess it's harder than ever for there to be some kind of love, because love kind of begins in that phase of, I guess, pornography in that sense, but not really not in the literal sense, but in the sense that it's a very animalistic, instinctual drive. And then it eventually becomes something more nuanced, and maybe that more spiritual love that poets and things talk about. But it's stupid to me that, like, you go on 2 dates with somebody and then there's love, and then it's like that's not what they were talking about. I think it was more of that old love where it's like they've been together for 90 years and both of them can't even see or move, but it's still like the commitment there is what love is. Otherwise, you just call a spade and say it's just being horny, which is fine. I'm kind of against that on the level of drowning yourself in horniness all the time, because there's enough of it around you already. You can't even, any new album cover now is just somebody's boobs or something. It's like ridiculous. Either way, we're surrounded by that enough. I think it's silly to be running around calling everything something deeper than it is. There should be more depth to what love is. I guess it's specific to everyone. Some people, have their different love languages, which I don't know how much I believe in that stuff either. Of like buying something for somebody is love, or touching them. I guess is I don't know. I guess I don't really want to delve into the psychology too much more, but there's probably a lot of opinions I have on I guess love and what people think that is, or these love languages especially. I don't even know all of them. I know that like one of them is like words of encouragement, so just like saying nice things, again, whether they're empty or not, I guess isn't important. And then buying them stuff is one thing, which is weird. I feel like that shouldn't be on there. It's like you can show them you love them by buying them stuff. It's like, yes, in some sense, like you don't have to buy them something per se, but you could like make something for them. But this still requires, I guess, material stuff to like make or produce or to buy. It's like you can't. I don't know, but at that point, it becomes a little transactional instead of this like unconditional thing. And I think that's really like the crux of it is even at the early stages of something called love, it begins as a transactional thing. Like, okay, you're hot, I think you're hot, you think I'm hot, let's get it on, whatever. Like as a transaction, or like, oh, I can, my friends see me with another attractive person, then I'm like, there's a lot of social transactions that go on, especially in the early stages of this, that I don't think is fair to assess that as love. It's like, otherwise it's easy to go in and fall out of. And it's not until there is, I guess, a large amount of commitment over a large period of time that you can really begin to assess anything that might resemble love. So I don't know. I think maybe I have a more stringent historical, poetic definition of love than others. Of course, because I don't necessarily ascribe to these, weird love languages that people have, but still, I think there's some a lot more nuance to it than just being horny. But I'm not obviously not the love doctor, so I wouldn't be taking any advice from me. So I'll move on to something probably more in my wheelhouse, because I'll be honest, that's probably not what you came here to hear about, if you wanted to hear about anything at all. But it's too bad. Predictions, predicting the future. Now, I grant I've done this many times, but the haiku I have on here is predictions are for pussies. So maybe I'll try to defend that as an argument. I think the basis of a lot of predictions in this thesis here is it's about fear, right? I think why people predict things is because they want to know so that they can absolve their fears on whatever it is that is scaring them. And in this case, it's predictions about the future or predictions about whatever. It's all on kind of this basis of fear. And the reason I said predictions are for pussies is because whether I can do it perfectly or not, I refuse to be somebody who exists perpetually in fear of something. Fear of big government, fear of small government, fear of love, fear of whatever. I don't really care what it is, but I refuse to be blatantly obstructed by fear of some kind. And some people deal with their anxieties through grief and through anxiety, through whatever's, or by they make predictions about stuff, about the future, and then what they're going to do to prepare for this future, right? They, make an apocalypse bunker if they have the money. They tell all their friends to invest in a shitcoin. I mean, I don't know what these people do. Again, I'm kind of talking about this contemptuous they here. I don't know who I'm talking about really. But in general, people that predict the futures are in some way, kind of, I mean, this is my theory, motivated by some fear of the future, that they would be left out, or they would be killed, or they would be silenced, or they would be somehow in the minority group of it. I mean, that's part of the reason why there's a lot of emphasis on acceptance of all kind, because it absolves a lot of fear. Like if I'm, no matter what, I'm accepted in some vague sense, then there's no reason to fear, because I won't be killed, I won't be silenced, I won't be whatever. But I want to speak more about the logistics of predicting stuff and why that is based in fear. So yeah, I guess that's really my whole theory, is that predictions are in large part based or come from fear. Whether they're based in the fears or not is one thing, but I think the reason we'd want to predict things is based out of fear. And that's probably just an evolutionarily or a biologically imposed instinct for us, is to be fearful and then to predict behavior. It's also kind of prevalent in our science, is we like to make predictions about things. Not that we're scared of what we find, but that knowing more is always better than knowing less. And I don't necessarily always agree with that. That kind of have sometimes fallen into this ignorance is bliss belief, and I don't necessarily think that's all wrong. I think sometimes there's asking questions can move you in the wrong direction if you, especially if you're someone that struggles with doing stuff, with the execution of some kind. Asking questions is often the last thing you want to do. So it's, I don't know, in some sense it's anti-scientific, but still, there's still a lot of psychology that goes into predicting stuff about the future. I say that as somebody who has literally just made a video on predicting the future after AI. Either way, I would say I would defend my video in saying that I did it because I thought it was fun, or really funny because of how wrong it'll be, or how off, or even how like accurate it might be later on. Not because I want to prove that I'm right or I'm some smart person who can predict the future. More so that it's funny that I got something right, or that I got something wrong, or even just that I had the hubris to think that I could predict the future. But I would argue that I didn't do it based out of fear. I did it based out of things being funny, because that's my new. Not really new. That's my MO that I'm adopting more so now. Is things should be funny. Humor should be is the path away, right? I laughed at things as a child, and then you stop laughing into adolescence because it's immature to think things are funny. Laughter is for kids, But then as you grow old again, you kind of see, well, it was all kind of a joke anyway. My life's a joke. Here's the punchline. No. But yeah, so then you circle back to things being funny again. And I don't really want to go through a whole midlife period of where things maybe are kind of funny, but I can't, that's half the reason I can't get into to care about these, like a corporate meeting, for example. It's like, there's nothing, I can't take this serious. And I know that somebody somewhere takes it, like people take it very serious. It's very important that, stakeholders are aligned. It's a joke. Maybe if I was doing manual labor or something like that, it'd be less of a joke. But I don't know how anyone takes it serious. Like to just sit in these meetings and whatever the hell they're talking. It's funny. It's not even, it can't be taken serious in my eyes. So I don't know. And sure, that makes me immature. I think another thing I want to talk about is with maturity. People like, oh, well, such and such is immature, or this is mature, or he's maturing, or so and so is. Like, what is that? Like maturity as a concept? Who decides what is a mature reaction or an immature reaction? Because like a lot of times, people laughing at something would be seen as immature or mature depending on what it is, right? But like for example, people, I guess laughing at politics like I would. People are like, well, that's immature. Like, this is important. It's like, well, it's important to you, but I think it's stupid and funny, so I'm gonna laugh at it. And it's like, well, it's immature. Once you grow up, you'll see how important it is. It's like, no, I don't. Sure, but then like I feel like it's immature for you to just assume that forever, just because it was important in your heyday or whatever was important for me. It's like I don't think being fat is myself is funny. I mean, I think the abstraction of somebody being overweight and like the difficulty of just average normal life, can kind of be funny. You can make it into a sitcom. following a fat guy around with a trumpet would be kind of funny. But the abstraction itself about being fat is not a laughing matter. I would take matters of personal health and that seriously, but some people will laugh at that. They go, it's not a big deal, it's just a donut. How many of those before you start to look like a donut, or your head is a donut? I wouldn't laugh at that as much. I mean, it's kind of a little bit funny, but it's not that funny. But I don't think you're the judge, speaking to anyone really, of what is mature, what is immature, right? It's like, I think there's no universal law that decides maturity and immaturity. So I think it kind of frustrates me that you can be labeled as immature or mature depending on whatever, because the mature reaction, being a bullshit product manager at Google or something would be to take everything serious. You're getting paid for this. This is real money. I think money's fucking stupid. It's retarded. If you, I mean, yeah, sure. Like you feed yourself, you're going to starve. Like whatever. I don't care. I think it's silly to take that serious. It's a joke. Like you're not doing anything. You're doing nothing. It's fake. It's not real work. There's no real value. It's fake teams, fake products that get cut every year. It's not like you think you taking it so damn serious. Sure, you might feel more mature taking it serious, dressing up in a suit or whatever the fuck you have to do, or talking to a big investor. Oh, he's got money. He's serious. He's not. It's like, no, you guys are all babies. I don't care. It's like, oh, so money is the measure of maturity, really? Oh yeah, that works out real great because there's not a single rich person who's fucked a kid, and I would say that's probably the peak of immaturity, is still wanting to fuck kids. Not only do you act like a kid, you want to fuck them. So that to me is more immature than anything. And those are by and large part represented by gajillionaires who have a shit ton of money. So I don't know. It just frustrates me that because obviously I think with how angry I've been called immature before on, my opinions on certain things. These are things that I've thought about deeply, and I've decided that they are retarded and I don't care about them. I've made up my mind. I don't have a serious opinion of XYZ, and then like, well, this is immature. Once you'll grow up and you'll really see how important. It's like, no, I don't. I've already thought about it. I've made up my mind. Even if I am wrong, who cares? I'm gonna die and still be wrong about something. Do I have to be right about everything before I die? It's like no. And I just don't think. I think calling things immature or mature as, I guess, beyond your own little sphere is dumb. Like running around telling other people that they're mature, immature based on whatever they do is dumb. You don't know what their philosophies on things. You don't know what they take serious or what they don't. So there are things that I just don't take serious, and I don't care. It's not immature in that sense. I've thought about it deep. I've decided that I don't give a fuck. Especially at least for this period of time, right? It's a joke to me right now. So, and sure, I'm sure maybe you're right in your infinite wisdom of me coming around to really see politics is what it is a serious thing where it's like, no, I wouldn't even, like I said before, it's a joke. It wouldn't surprise me if they took out everybody's votes, and even though it's an electronic system, they would print out everyone's votes and they took them to South Dakota and then they burn them in one giant seance. That's what they do. That's what politics would be. Wouldn't I think like voting is a joke as a personal philosophy. But I don't think you should fault me for being immature and thinking that it doesn't fucking matter. Like I have my reasons why I don't think it matters, and I have evidence too, on some sense. I mean, I could have data evidence on why I don't think it matters, but again, I have personal philosophy evidence on why certain things don't matter, and it's not a matter of like growing out of this. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to give a fuck in 10 years. And sure, I might be a 75-year-old in your eyes, quote unquote, immature person for not giving a fuck about this, but I've decided it's not going to be a part of my life that I care about. And in voting and politics is one of them. I just don't care, and there's no amount of maturation that is going to fix that philosophy. It's just what it is. But I think calling it immature is insulting in some level, and is I guess offensive on one level, just because it feels like you're being called a child. But in reality, we think the children aren't. I don't view it in that sense. Obviously, I don't know. It's obnoxious that it just having a different philosophy on certain things can get you labeled immature, even though you don't really think of it that way, or you may have thought more deeply about something. And speaking of thinking deeply about things, I've come around on, and I obviously have always sought great value in talking about my opinions. and great value in writing them down, especially as I started my buckets blog, which I do weekly, maybe 2 times a week at minimum, sometimes more, but 2 times a week generally I write a blog. But writing or even talking is much more powerful in my mind than just thinking. Because of course I do think a lot before I write or I talk. Sometimes, I guess I'm not really thinking sometimes before I say this. But there's a lot of value in like that curation process you have to go through. Writing is kind of a superpower in that regard, in which it requires you to think through or question or boil down your opinions into something more tangible. Whereas if you're just kind of emptily talking about an opinion of yours, or you're just kind of, like, I think even just like thinking about it, ruminating on it alone, and then talking about even like this is still a very low stakes environment where I say something and it goes and it's gone. I don't really have to back it up or question it or do anything else with it ever again. Whereas writing down, specifically writing, has been more impactful because I have to look at it again at least once. I don't just write. I have to like proofread the sentence even. It's sometimes enough for me to go, okay, wait, what am I saying? Does this, like, is this even like grammatically correct? Which again, a lot of times it is. If you don't often whiff the whole sentence. Like, you don't forget the verb. A lot of times you can put all that together by writing it down, but then you have to look at it again and think about it. And even like in adjusting the wording, you still think about like the opinion itself. Like, what am I saying? Does this even make sense? And there's a certain catharsis and I guess kind of digestion that you get when you write a lot of stuff down. That's why it's so powerful. And I would advise, that's why I think everyone should have a blog of some kind. No one needs to read any of it. It doesn't have to be reflected. It needs to be honest. That's I think it's dumber for you to have a blog that you just post like LinkedIn memes or some kind of corporate, seal clapping Yas Queen type bullshit than you would of having like a true honest to God of what you think. Otherwise you have no opinion. You can't reasonably have a philosophy of your own and call your own that it's just some word bite you heard on John Oliver, and then you're going to repeat that every 5 seconds. It's like, that's not something you thought of. You just heard that and you're just repeating it. It's not an opinion that you've thought of and you've really kind of questioned and really used as it's not your own opinion. It's someone else's opinions you've adopted and ran with. And there's like, I'm not saying I don't have all original opinions. In fact, none of my opinions are probably original, but they're all things that I've at the very least, thought enough about to write down, thought enough about to speak about, and thought enough about to write down again and formulate my own words in some kind of, but there's still a lot of curation process where I question that over and over and over again. Whereas if I just, read, oh, God is dead and we've killed him, and then I just run with that, and everywhere I go, I just cite, oh, God is dead and we've killed him. That isn't, that's a weak ass philosophy. It's weak. Okay. I've heard it once and all I did was repeat it all the time. I didn't think about it. There was no risk I assumed in putting that towards any kind of pressure where it might fold or there might be any kind of mutation or any kind of adjustment on that. It was always just something I am just repeating and regurgitating. And I think that's one of my big beefs with so much consumption in the culture is that there's no celebration of curating your own opinion, even if it isn't something as powerful and as poignant as, God is dead and we've killed him, or any other, like, all I know is I know nothing. Like, yeah, these are very, very powerful historic philosophies that you can adopt and are obviously good ones to think, but it's not yours. It's not saying you have to have your own, but you got to at least work towards something. And if you land on the same thing or you can't come up with anything more elegant, then that's fine. But there needs to be some effort put towards your own philosophy. And I think you can't really do that just sitting in your room thinking alone, or even just speaking to someone else that agrees with you in some sense. I think there needs to be some kind of creative canvas in which you can document and wrestle with certain ideas. I think that's what kind of a burner blog or even like a dumbass Twitter thing can do, is kind of, again, curate whatever opinions. Twitter itself, I would say no to, but I just mean like, having tweet like little blog things. You don't have to write full on blogs. Because another problem is if people just feel like they need to write so much, it's, I did the same thing where I just write so much and it's just so much garbage. None of it's any good. A lot of times if it is truly good, it has condensed itself into something tighter, So I pick up books and it's like, this book could have been 5 fucking pages. Like, why do you don't need to write all this crap? Like, I know that you're trying to establish yourself as a writer of some kind, but 260 pages to say what? What are you talking about? Just, I mean, who's your editor? I mean, they should be fired. This is a horror. I mean, like, yeah, kudos to you for actually writing a book. I'll give you that. Like, thank you for trying. But there's just your opinions are so verbose, and so how many times you do the same thing over and over again. That's the other thing is, it shouldn't be for anyone else. Like, you shouldn't be putting your opinions forth for somebody else. So it's like the argument you'd have against like the author writing this giant book is, well, you need to restate stuff because people don't get it the first time you say it. It's like you shouldn't be making this just to sell copies of the book. You should make it because it is like we've lost the site. Okay, it shouldn't be made for other people's crap. And how is this going to do as a consumption? We don't like the optics of this book. It's like you should make this because it is a piece of art. We shouldn't be looking at the value of art before you make it. It needs to be purely its own creative exercise. And if it happens to have value, then great. Otherwise, like you shouldn't be, preempting the creation of art with its optics or like think, is this going to work with our people put this in the segment of here? It's like, no, you should make it first. And there shouldn't be any amount of like, are they going to like me if I say it this way? It's like, no, it should be true to form. I think it's just wrong. I think there's other artists and things that didn't think so damn much about what other people think of them. It's not like, Nietzsche was fucking crazy and he just wanted to. He wasn't thinking, I wonder if people are going to like me if I do. Like, no, fucking write it. I don't care if people don't like it. Who cares? Fuck them. That should be the attitude of any artist. Fuck them. I don't care if they don't like it. It's like, that's why I kind of like artists that are more dickheads. You're like, I don't give a fuck if you don't like it. It's my thing. I made it. Don't look at it. Don't read it if you don't like it. Go fuck yourself. There shouldn't be this like, well, I want to be more accessible, so I have to re-say the same point 80 times, and they have to read 500 extra pages and these fake anecdotes about people that got lucky. It's like, what the fuck? Just cut it down, and what do you have to say? Fucking say it, and don't worry about what other people. I don't know. I'm gonna stop there because I'm on a fucking different branch of thinking right now. So anyway, I'm gonna take a nap or something. I gotta calm down. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Peace out.